Hi friends, hi, hello, how are you today? I hope that today finds you well. Today we're doing the next installment in my palette roulette series in which I review a palette that is part of my collection, maybe is also part of your collection, and I share with you my experiences with the palette. This isn't a first time impression. This is me really digging into the palette for a full week's time, using it with primer, without primer. Every color in the palette is being used and optimized in a way that I can come to you and give you some true tea experiences with said palette. I am reviewing the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette today. This is what it looks like. I'm so excited about it. And I would love it if you keep watching. For those of you new here, hi, my name is Donna. Welcome to my channel, our channel. I'm super happy to have you here today. I am a lover of all things high-end, colorful beauty and self-care, dabbling in a little bit of indie, dabbling a little bit of drugstore, but mostly high-end. I am kind of a kick in the pants to hang out with, and I am also 44, a lady of a certain age who's told you can't, you shouldn't. I'm here to tell you, let's be partners in crime. Let's walk this journey together because you need to be out there doing what soothes your soul. I'm definitely going to be out here doing what soothes my soul, and I will be that bad influence if you need one that tells you it doesn't matter. Age is just a number. Ain't no thing. So you do you, boo. I'm gonna do me, boo. Let's lock arms, walk this journey together, and let's get into this palette. Today, we are reviewing the Lunar Beauty Moon Spell palette. This is a palette that I coveted again for so long. It came out in October 2019. It was Lunar Beauty's holiday release, which threw everybody on their heads because who does this? Who does a holiday release and releases something for Halloween and not for Christmas? Well, Manny does that. And Lunar Beauty is the makeup brand that is owned and operated by Manny MUA here on YouTube. I will link his channel down in my description box. I love Manny for so many reasons, but most specifically because he is the content creator that I started watching when I first got into makeup, and I have learned so much from him as far as how to put on makeup, how to do a halo eye, how to do a cut crease. Like I've learned so much from him. Me, this crazy old lady, watching Manny, crazy gay man, put on makeup and learning from him. What? Yes, I love him so much. So when he came out with his own brand, I, at that point in time, was like, I need everything. I have to have everything that Manny produces. I do have almost everything that he produces. When this palette released, I was like, I don't need that palette. And then, like, I don't know, 3 days later was like, I need that palette. And then it was sold out everywhere. So let's look at this palette. So when you get the palette, it comes in a sleeve. This is what the sleeve looks like. Oh, it's upside down. This is what the sleeve looks like. It says Moon Spell. It looks like an old antique book that you might find on your bookshelf. The back of it has all the information about the palette that you need. It does tell you that there's something wicked this way comes. Be ready to shock and amaze in this enchanted 15 color palette. Go from good witch to bad witch in a snap. This palette will put a spell on you, which I thought was fantastic. And then that same blurb is also in Spanish. I also note that down here it does tell you that there are some shades that are not shades that are meant for use on the eyes. FDA rules, right? So this is considered a shadow palette and not an eyeshadow palette. You take the book out of the sleeve, and this is what it looks like, clear down to the little clasp that holds the spell book together. I thought this was genius. It's got Moonspell on the spine, and then on the back it looks like this, which just reminds you still that this is a spell book. I loved too The edges look like gold leafing of paper, and then you open it up. It does have a really decent mirror, and then the shadows can be read from this angle or this angle. They sit on the corner of each one of the shadows so that you can read them like a book or like a palette, which I thought was fantastic. When I got mine, this shadow here, named Prue, was shattered. I did just take all the pieces that I could. It was very nicely still in its place, and I just pressed them back into the pan. It does seem to be doing really quite well. It's not fragile anymore, but it was a fragile shade in shipping. I did order it from the Lunar Beauty website. I wasn't going to return the palette over one shade that was shattered. I do that actually quite often. If it can be pressed back into the pan, I have a good amount of product still. I'm not going to complain about it, send it back. That's just a big hassle for me. I love this palette, so let's just start there. This Moon Spell palette is a $48 shadow palette. It does come in at 4.7 stars on Beauty Bay. Sold out. It's limited edition. I couldn't get a star rating off of the Lunar Beauty website because it's not even on there anymore, because it is sold out, because it is a limited edition. I did pick this up in October 2020 when he re-released it, so I have to imagine that he maybe will re-release it again. I don't know. Don't come for me if that's not true, but this is a beautiful shadow palette. You can get it on resale websites, Mercari, Poshmark, those kind of places. I would suggest you do it. It is a beautiful palette. Originally, this retailed for $48. It has 0.66 ounces of product in it. This equates to 0.044 per pan. This is a little smidge smaller than a ColourPop eyeshadow pan. There are 15 shades of eyeshadow in this palette, and this does bend all the way back. I just don't want to break the spine of my palette. I like to collect them, so I don't want the spine broken. Long story short, I don't want to break the spine of my palette, so I'm not going to bend it all the way back. You can, though, if that is something that you want to do. This is a 15 pan eyeshadow palette packed with nudes and jewel tones, inspired by the pop culture witchiness of the witches in the 90s shows and spell books, and the names of the shades are from such shows as Charmed, Harry Potter, Sabrina, Hocus Pocus, those kind of things. This was limited edition. It is cruelty free and vegan, and it was launched in October 2019. Like I said, I did not get mine until October 2020 when he re-released it for Halloween. Hopefully, maybe he'll re-release it again this year. This does have a combination of mattes and shimmers that's pretty 50-50. There are 7 shimmers, 2 which act more like satins than they do shimmers, and then 8 mattes. All of them so gorgeous on the eye. I would say that the shimmers in this palette have a little bit of magic to them, including the satin shades have a little bit of magic to them. They are beautiful. They perform beautifully. They perform beautifully with a brush, with a finger, with a wet brush. I did see the most impact out of them utilizing my finger for swiping them on. I would say that the shadows in this palette are best with a primer, both for longevity and for color purposes, so the payoff of the shadow purposes, only because they are such vibrant shades that a primer is going to give you a little bit more oomph in the payoff of the pigmentation. It's also going to give you a lot more oomph in the longevity of the shadow. I know that they didn't last as long on my eye without significant fading when I wasn't using a primer. So use a primer. I mean, bottom line, I do have pretty normal eyelid space. It might be a little bit dry. I do like a little more emollient primer so that my lids don't feel completely parched at the end of the day. Even yesterday, I did have 2 separate eye looks on my eyes yesterday because I was just having fun, wanted to play with makeup. and my eyes were really quite dry. So I do like a more emollient primer. I did use a drier primer with these and an emollient primer. I don't think either one of them interacted any differently with the shadows than the other. So I used the Beauty Crop Stuck On You primer, which reminds me a lot of like a paint pot. And then I also used my primer potion by Urban Decay. Either one of those is going to interact the same for the most part with the shadows, as far as creating a nice primed base for the shadow to go onto, and as far as like really saving it from that fading, creasing kind of thought process. These last about 8 hours on your lid without noticeable fading, which I can appreciate because that meant an all-day wear for me when I'm out and about and need my makeup to last at least that long, because I put it on at 7 and I don't take it off again until 10 p.m. Okay, I think that this palette is really great for all eyeshadow lovers, whether you're a natural lover or a color lover or a little bit of in between, because with this row here in the center, you're going to have a lot of those natural colors that you need to make an everyday eye look for, right? So if you're an office worker and you need an everyday work appropriate eye look, you can get that out of this palette. But you love color, you can also get that out of this palette. And you can get a combination of the two that is a very happy medium of the two different like work appropriate or day or nighttime look, right? I think that this shadow palette is perfect for the person who wants a little bit of both worlds. And I do think that this shadow palette could be your one and done if you're not interested in a stark brow bone shade. But if you are interested in a stark brow bone shade, use a white base primer with it. You're going to get that white in your brow bone without actually needing a white in the palette to get there. I don't think that this has an appropriate brow bone shade if you're looking for a matte brow bone shade, or even a shimmery brow bone shade that leans on the champagne or white side. That isn't really in here. But this is a beautiful palette for those of us that want a combination of both daytime and nighttime looks. Does that make sense? Am I making sense? I'm kind of tired right now, so I feel like I'm talking in circles. The mattes are mostly smooth and creamy. I would say that Paige, Sabrina, and Nancy felt a little bit more stiff in the pan, so you're going to have these two shades here, Paige and Sabrina, and then Nancy, which is the one up here. I would say of the three, this one probably performed the least best. This one performed the least best, right? I don't know. Nancy performed the worst. That's what I'm looking for. Oh my God, I'm so tired. It felt a little bit more grippy than the other one. They felt a little bit more grippy than the other ones. These are the ones that I do believe are the reason why the shadow palette is called a shadow palette and not an eyeshadow palette. They have the potential to be the ones that needed carmine, which is bugs, and Manny won't use, you know, he wants to be a completely vegan and cruelty-free brand, which I respect him for. Those ones would also be the ones that would stain your eyes. I really didn't struggle with these staining my eyes. I didn't struggle with any of them staining my eyes, which I found kind of an anomaly situation when it comes to pressed pigments, because almost every single pressed pigment I put on my eyeballs has stained my eyes. These ones did not. All of them are pretty pigmented on first application. I would say that Nancy does tend to get a little bit patchy. I also feel like Sabrina does get a little bit patchy. Sabrina is the purple. But as you're packing on and blending and packing on and blending, like the patchiness kind of goes away. Nothing got muddy. And even the lighter tones in the palette seem pretty pigmented. This one, as light as it seems, is actually a pretty pigmented shade. When I first put it on, I went a little ham with it and I had to actually really dial it down in order to make my eye look come together. The shimmers in this palette I think are pretty magical. They all have just a little bit of like duochrominess to them that you'll see in the swatches, I do hope. This one is the sister to one that's in the Strawberry Dream palette that is kind of a purple blue shade. This one's like a purple pink. Fiona and Piper are the two that I think lean a little bit more satin than they do shimmer. I do have Piper in my eye look today. It is built into the crease. It is buffed up into the brow bone area. I think that it is a beautiful shadow and it blends very well. The other ones do have kind of a bit of chunkiness to them, a bit of glitter to them. You're going to see some fallout. So note that you're going to see some fallout with this palette. Note that maybe you'll want to do your eyes first because that's just going to benefit you. I would say my favorite shimmers of the two are Fiona and Prue, just because of the nature of them and what they look like on an eye look. Like I can't with the shimmers in this palette, with the, you know, satin slash shimmers in this palette. They're beautiful. So let's do some swatches. I'm going to do, of course, I always go from right to left, and then row 1, row 2, row 3. So that is how we're going to swatch these. Okay, so this is Prue, a pinky purple blue diamond. That is the name of the one in the Strawberry Dreams palette. This is the sister to that shadow. It's a pinky purple, like duochrome. I would say more of a topper, but the more I thought of these along the lines of topper versus shimmer, like I know that you can make this work as an all over the lid shade because I had it all over my lid. The next one is Piper, and Piper is a fuchsia leaning purple satin. It is so pretty. It is in my eye look today. It is a beautiful shade. The next one is Phoebe, and Phoebe is a purple blue glitter shimmer. I do believe that this one is a little bit duochrome. If you guys can see, there is a purple leaning blue shift to that. And then this one, which is the first matte that you're going to come across in the palette. And this one is Paige. This is one of the ones that doesn't perform as well. Okay, then the last one in the top row is this one, which is Sabrina, and it is a beautiful purple matte. Gets a little patchy upon first application. The more you blend, the better this looks. I would say this one, you'll want to tap, tap, tap into your eye look and then blend slowly, blend lightly. Otherwise, this one isn't going to work for you and maybe will be frustrating. But this is a beautiful row. I did use this first, and I used a lot of colors in this row last as well. The next row we have is Winifred, which is just a really pretty matte medium brown tone. It's got a lot of yellow in there, so it goes really well with the greens in the palette. Then we have Sarah, which is a taupe that is kind of a pinky taupe. It is in my eye look today. And then we have Mary, which is such a beautiful, like antique, like greeny gold. It's really pretty. And I think it's interesting that on my monitor, I see it as green. So I think that you guys also see it as green. In most swatches, I see it as like a yellow gold, like almost a brassy gold or a patinaed gold. This is just such a beautiful, like olive tone gold in my opinion. And then we have Samantha, which is in my eye look today. I love the shade. It is a metallic rose gold, but I think it's maybe more like rose toned copper. Oh God, it is so, so pretty. It is on my lid space today. And then the last one in that second row is this one, which is Kiki. I am going to go in a second time for that swatch just because I didn't get a really good amount of product on my finger. It is just a matte brown. I would say this one is warm toned, but it is a little more cool toned, a lot more cool toned than the previous one. Last row, we have Hermione, which is a beautiful mustard shimmer. It's got a lot of like different colored flecks to it. I'm going to swatch it again. It's got a little bit of forgivance in the shadow to it. It looks like a really ugly shimmer. But I did note that when I paired this with Over the Top of the Greens or paired this over one of the pinks in the palette, like it just gave it so much more energy in my eye look, and it swayed like orange almost. So I think it has a little bit of pink shimmer to it, or a little bit of pinkiness to it. And Manny actually states that it's got pink in it. in his video, but you can't tell when you're looking at it, but it does kind of look more orange in an eye look, which I thought was really quite interesting because it looks like just a really ugly mustard toned gold. And then we have this green right here, which is Bonnie. This is a matte chartreuse green. Then we have this one, which is a beautiful like sage green matte, or army green or camouflage matte, which I also think is beautiful. And those three colors together are so stunning. I can't believe I didn't put those in an eye look together. Those are beautiful. All right, and then we have this one, which is also a matte. It is Nancy. It is a matte teal, and this one is the one that I said was the worst one in the palette. Can you see that in the swatch? It's beautiful shadow. I love it. I love the eye look I was able to create using this, a good majority of the eye look, but it swatches horribly. It gets kind of patchy in an eye look. You do have to work quite a bit of time with this shadow. And then the last one in the palette is this one, which is my favorite in the palette. It is called Fiona, and it is such a beautiful black leaning, emerald leaning, almost purple in an eye look. I think it's a satin. It performs much like the Piper shade over here. I would put it into my crease if I needed to. So like when I said leans purple, it's because in a pink eye look it looks very purple, but in a green eye look it looks very blue-green. I don't know. It's just so pretty. So these are the shadows in that palette. I think that they're gorgeous. These shadows work really well with each other. I think that they also work really well with other formulations. There was an opportunity I had to use some of the shadows in my Shop My Stash. My eye was watering really bad and it just wasn't sticking. So I used another shadow on top. It melded very well with them. I would say they don't blend away to nothing. They don't create voids with each other. And I think that they just perform beautifully. But I think that it is a wonderful palette, and I do hope that he comes out with it again this Halloween season so that y'all can get your hands on it as well if you don't have your hands on it yet. This is a palette that I absolutely love. This is a palette that I will keep forever because this is a beautiful palette. It's fun to work with. The green eye I came up with that you guys will see pictures of was probably my most favorite green eye look I've ever created, and it was all from this palette. I am actually in that place where I'm kind of sad to see it like come off of my palette Roulette. Like I said, it does come in at 4.7 stars on Beauty Bay. There is 47 reviews for this palette ranking on Beauty Bay. I would say that this palette probably comes in the 4.6, 4.7 range for me too, because you could get some really pretty eye looks. You could also get some really everyday eye looks out of this. You're not, I don't think, gonna get bored because there's multiple different combinations in here, and the neutral shades do work so well with the jewel tone shades on either side of it. I love that Manny does that with his palettes, is puts, you know, one row of neutrals and then a bunch of other shades that really go with those neutrals. I'm gonna quit droning on about it. So I'm gonna go pick the next palette for next week's video, and I will be right back. Okay, so I just did my haul in retrospect. That video went up last week, and I will go ahead and link it in the cards for you. But when I did that, I realized there were two palettes that came into my collection in July of 2020 that, like, for all intents and purposes, I should have used by now, because I just can't even believe that I haven't, if I'm honest. But then I got to looking at that brand in my collection, and I'm like, I haven't used so many of these palettes. So I am going to pull one into this week's palette Roulette, and it is the Natasha Denona bronze palette. And a friend of mine in the comment section said this would be the perfect palette for these days because it's got, you know, the summery bronzy nature feel of the palette, and I am really super excited to be using it this week. Not for those purposes, but because I just really want something easy to work with, something easy to wear, something that's going to go with everything. I have some beauty school visits this week, and I have some store visits this week that I want to have ease of application, know what I'm working with, and not really something new going on my eyes that I have no idea what I'm doing, right? I'm used to the Natasha Denona formula, and I'm actually really excited to be utilizing this color story in my life over the next week. So these are the shadows that I will be using. This is the palette that I will be using over the next week for Palette Roulette, and I will come to you next Monday and we will review this palette. I hope that you're in for it. I hope that that's something that you'll want to see, and if so, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Hit the notification bell. That way you're notified every single time I upload and you don't miss anything. I hope that you guys liked this video, and I hope that you'll consider giving it a big thumbs up if you did. If there's something I can do better for you, please let me know. I hope that you guys are having an awesome August. I know it just started. Today is day 2. I have a kid turning 27 in 2 days. Can you believe it? That just blows my mind. So there's that. Man, God, that makes me feel so dang old. But with that said, I hope that August is treating you kindly so far. I hope that 2021 is treating you kindly so far. I hope that you and yours are well and you're getting along with this crazy world that we're living in right now as best as you can. I hope that you all are loving each other, but loving each other from afar. And until next time, bye friends. I'm tired today. My wonky eye is showing all the puffiness.